pounds, and I'm still down like I'm probably down like 17, 18 pounds. But there was a period I was like literally couldn't eat at all. I couldn't keep food down or anything. And so it was yeah, that part was it was miserable. But I'm looking for an epic rebound now. I'm just gonna like get sponsored by some supplement company and just do a before and after and just say it's all because of them. Like back in the old day,
It,
like what was it, like the hydroxycut, all muscle tech, everything back
I
in the
was
day was
just
the
gonna
best.
say, give Muscle Tech a call. That was like,
Yeah.
didn't they get proven that they used to do the before and afters on the same day? They just kind of took a picture, then photoshopped it, and it was all
I don't
done
know. I'm
like
not know
12
these
weeks
things.
later.
Lee Priest back in the day as well too. They'd have his like off season and like, oh, this is all hydroxycut burgers and
Yeah, he used to eat KFC
hydro.
on the adverts, didn't you? I remember those ads.
Yeah.
And we believed it back in the
Yep.
day. Leo, what's the worst supplement you've ever bought back in the day? That mine is probably some of the no, not Muscle Tech. You guys might not have had this one during this day, so I think it might have been an American brand. Cybergenics. Can you remember that, Leroy?
Polygenics, yeah.
Cybergenics. It was like
Yeah.
£200 like 30 years ago for like a month's supply. So it's
Yeah.
crazy money. Ah.
Yep. No, for me
Right,
it was
I'm
definitely
gonna
muscle
I'm
tech.
gonna sit back on this one, and Dan's gonna handle this one. I've sent Dan the questions.
I'm
All
on
I
it.
was just rambling stuff. Yeah, we
You
agreed on
sent me the
this
question.
afternoon, Dan. Ah, see, it doesn't even check the memo, Joe. Have a look in the group.
We'll figure it out.
I am the groove.
Not that group, Dan.
Oh, right. Oh, I was
Not the
wondering.
Saturday night
I was
group.
wondering what that was.
That was a joke.
Not the Sunday group.
Definitely not that one.
All right, should I kick off and try and do an intro? Are we going to
Yeah,
put the
let's do
intro at
it.
the beginning this time?
Yeah, we can edit
It
it
does
down and
help.
all that kind of. We,
The last,
we
the
just
last
put
one
the
is
rest
about
of
halfway
it.
through.
Nobody, to be honest, does anybody care? Really though.
Yeah,
Well,
probably.
they're not watching this podcast for high production
I
value.
think that I think they
Yeah.
know it's. I think they'll know it'll be the beginning when it starts.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Science, but
Maths.
I'll do it anyway. Hello and welcome back to 100% or Nothing podcast. Today we are finally connected, Joe Bennett and Leroy, which was kind of spiked by me seeing Joe's work on the analysis of Dorian's training. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could connect these guys to do some chin wagging, throw some questions at them, and hopefully unpick the all the secrets that we now have that were hidden through black and white televisual feasts of blood and guts back in the day. So that was my thought process anyway. But for some people who are so old school that they're watching this on a carrier pigeon note, if Joe could maybe do a whirlwind whistle stop version of maybe why you ended up here in this world of muscles.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do this whirlwind, but I'll do my best. Like started with Arnold Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. My brother had it, and just as soon as I saw it, it was like read it like cover to cover, and then literally just started doing whatever I could do, like push-ups. I literally went and bought like a dumbbell, like a dumbbell, like 15 pound, like started doing curls in my bedroom, push-ups. As soon as I could, just started training in my gym at school. Got a gym membership, started doing all the every like I literally just love training. Like I have like I could write stories about like the obsessive things. My entire family thought I was nuts. Like by my junior year, by the time I was 16, I was training like during school, after school, and then after my job at a gym membership just because I thought more was better. So just went all in, super obsessed. In college, I was probably the first time I actually like thought about nutrition, toned down the 3 days to 2 days. And but just honestly, that's the first time I made like really good progress. Like when I graduated from high school, I'm like 5'11", and I think I weighed like 150, which I'm pretty sure can't even look like I worked out. I just had like slightly muscular bones. And in college, I just ate everything, trained my ass off, and I was still like a weirdo. I had like bodybuilding stuff, like all in my dorm. I had bodybuilding stuff and Lord of the Rings stuff. So you can imagine I was very popular with the ladies that just didn't understand why this guy has like Middle Earth lore and guys in their, underwear perceivably on his wall. And honestly, like if people that knew anything, like people that know me from back then, just knew I was an obsessed weirdo because I would talk about bodybuilding with absolutely everybody that wanted to talk about it. I would literally do like in school, I do like projects. If I could read a speech about, I give a speech about Arnold and just a bunch of weirdo, crazy, obsessed stuff. And then out of school, I got my first job in the gym while I was at college. Out of school, I started working as a personal trainer because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had like a brief stint in corporate wellness, got into personal training. Luckily, I got around some people from the business side that were really good, and I realized you can actually make a living doing this. And so I got all in just to like kind of the business side, got into business management. So I developed and managed a couple of training departments for a couple of different big companies. And then I connected with BPAC. So that's kind of, I always loved bodybuilding. Like honestly, like the gym that I used to train at right by where I used to work that's where Jason Huh kind of got discovered. So I knew Jason, we're like the same age. I knew him the whole time he was coming up. I knew him right before him when he turned pro. And it was like all along that time, I kind of always knew that I first thought I wanted to compete. And then like everybody that I ever trained with like got bigger faster than me. And I kind of figured out this whole genetics thing. When I first met Jason, we're both like, 22 years old. And then I'm like looking at me and I'm looking at him and I'm like, we're not the same. So I was just like, I just love it, but I'm not going to compete just because, for at that point in time, I was like, why do gear? Why take drugs if it's not going to make any difference? I'm just going to hurt myself. And then probably like around age 28, I got talked into competing with a client. And it was like, he was like kind of like a guy that I just got like an amazing shape, successful guy, late 40s. And was like, man, I want to compete. I've always wanted to do it, kind of like a bucket list thing. He's like, the only like little hitch is you have to do it with me. And I was like, you know what the hell? I'll do one show and just compete. And then during that time, I got connected with Ben Pekulski. And so that's when most people started to know me because I started, I opened MI40 with him at that point in time with another trainer. And that's when I started doing social media. Age 30 is when I started social media. And, just since then, I've been training, working with meatheads, putting stuff online, trying to whatever, do this muscle building thing. And I always liked it when I was at my clubs beforehand. Like everybody told me, like, do like weight loss, do like weight loss. And within the first couple of years of having like normal clients, weight loss clients, I just gravitated towards training meatheads. Like my ideal client in all the gyms I worked at, these big gyms with 5,000, 6,000 members, I would always train like the biggest guys in the gym. And so, even at that point in time, if I was weighing whatever 220, I'd be training guys that are like 260 or 270. And I had members be like, "You're training that guy?" And I'm like, "Shut up, he wants me here." And so before social media, I even gravitated towards, I just like doing that. And I was like, I don't really care if I can make a living at this or not. I just like training meatheads and people that want to get big. It's just more fun for me. And luckily kind of carved out, a little niche with that. So that's where I'm at.
Perfect.
Yeah, you've been involved with some big names, haven't you, as well, Joe? You haven't mentioned any of the big names, have you? But yeah, you've had some or have some very high profile clients, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, the way I've originally, when I first started, I never did the whole, I did a little bit. Like people would ask me to do contest prep and stuff. I didn't even know like because when I was training in person, I never did all that for anybody. I never did the supplements, the drugs, any of that kind of stuff. And then I had people like just DMing me. I didn't know what online coaching was. Again, this is like 11, 12 years ago. And I was like, I don't know what people want me to do. I don't ever train people in person. And so I figured out real fast, I was like, I'm just going to help people with training. I don't like, there's people that are really good with the guru stuff. And like, that's not me. And I don't know all that stuff well. And so I just always stuck with training. And then so I've had people that, I've done all their training for them. I've had people that'll just, do one-offs and help here and there. And I kind of always like that better because it's not like this, I feel like a lot of it, how coaching can be, some of it. I mean, there's obviously great coaches and there's negative where it's a lot of people, it's like this ownership thing, like this is my guy and half of his success is owed to me or whatever. And I didn't like that. I honestly just like the idea of like it kind of like it should be. I'm just like helping people. And I've like done a million sessions with guys where I'm just like, hey, let's just go through stuff. What do you want to work on? What do you want to look at? Sometimes they're like, hey, you just do whatever. Sometimes just do your own session. And I'll say, man, if we get one thing good out of it, great. Some people act like I'm changing their lives when I train them. I'm like, okay, cool, that's extra awesome. Some people, I'm like, hey, if I waste your time for 2 hours, but you get, like I said, one little tip here or there, we'll take what we can get. So I feel like that's been nice because it's like again, I don't feel like I have to, like I said, like feel like I'm taking ownership of people, just help people as much or as little as they want, and it just kind of ends up a little bit, better for both parties that way. But yeah, I've been lucky enough. I've trained with some awesome people, so that's been great.
Yeah,
Here's
you see
something that
that a
I
lot,
actually
don't you?
don't.
Sorry, and you see that a lot online, don't you? Where it's like, hey, they followed my diet and they followed my program
Yeah,
and they won the contest because of me.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Dan.
That's right. That I something I don't know about Leroy. It's obviously you're known for training Dorian with Dorian, but did you have training partners prior to that? Like where you, because obviously you are the commander of nasty in how you're spotting and everything, and it is a skill. Like you obviously didn't learn that straight for the blood and guts.
No, I had training partners, but they weren't. We no, I'm just like Joe there. I train. I just love training. I trained all my life. I've done something physical all my life. So training was just natural to me. I mean, doing the boxing and whatever. The reason I got into bodybuilding was because I shattered my thumb, so I had to have an off season as a junior. So I started using weights just to try and strengthen my hand and my foot. So that's how I actually started using weights in the first place. So from the age of sort of 14 and a half, I started moving and lifting weights, got into it that way. Went to a powerlifting gym where I used to live at 15 years of age. That was run by a school teacher, a very strong bloke. And he sort of let me in. I was supposed to be there because I was underage, but he let me in, let me use the weights and whatever. And then I just started picking up trio. I used to end up training with lads that I'd walk in and say, "You want to train?" Yeah, but we're doing chest. Great, I'll do chest with you. Next time I walk in, hey, you want to train? What are you doing? Chest? Yeah, I'll do chest with you. Have that. Yeah, come on, chest and arms, fucking chest and arms, 5 days a week. But that's how I got into it. And reference, over the years, I've had a couple of trade partners that have been long term. Obviously, Dorian was the longest. Before that was just lads who they just love training as well. So no one really sort of here famous and sort of made it to the top. We just lads that love training.
Yeah. So there's not a big long list of people that's left in the gutter, Leroy. We've just demolished them.
Oh, they all got broke. They all got broke.
That's basically what we wanted to hear, I think.
Yeah.
So should I fire into some of these questions? And then I was hoping that maybe Joe had some questions for Leroy. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to start us off, and
All right.
I mean, I got plenty of questions, but
All right. Well, we'll knock through some of the. Everyone writes on like the post like "wicked, can't wait," and then
yeah,
doesn't
ask some
ask
questions. Like, oh crap, I forgot to ask questions.
Yeah.
No, they
So-
generally DM them because they're a bit kind of. Some of the questions are a bit weird, so they do get a DM. But yeah, maybe sometimes because some of the questions are very basic that I get across, and we do this quite a lot, Dan. We forget that some of the viewers are quite like starting out, if you like, so they will ask kind of very basic questions. And I think a lot of guys don't want to put it on there because they look like silly or whatever. So,
Well,
but there
I
was
think
some good ones in the DM actually. To be fair,
I think that's what's missing though. Like the internet is saturated with such advanced stuff. Where do you go when you're starting out? Like,
yeah. Well, somebody commented on the post again. I think nobody's got a sense of humor anymore. Like I put like Leroy versus Joe Bennett. Like, oh, what's the problem? Like, there's not a problem, guys. It's just a bit of fun. Like Leroy and Joe are not going to square up overseas online or have a virtual fight or something. Like, oh, come on. I was laughing when you put like that harmless of things. Yeah, just come.
Yeah.
We're just having a bit of fun. But yeah, sorry, Dan. Go on, fire some. You've got some weird questions, and I can guarantee you get the weird ones.
well, the first one was just the most underrated and overrated exercise. So I don't know. We'll hit that for Joe.
Man, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't. I mean, it sounds bad. I mean, let me see if I can think of something to say. I honestly just don't think of exercise like that anymore. I mean, I feel like I do like the idea that as far as things that are overrated, I feel like now people have gotten away from you have to do like all this like fixed bar stuff where it's like you can do it, but you don't have to do it. And I think one of the most obvious is like I feel like so many guys, and this is almost like gone now. You don't even see anybody doing like barbell curls, like straight bar barbell curls, like straight bar skull crushers, like things like that. Like most guys have figured out like, oh, like if I can curl 70-pound dumbbells and that doesn't hurt my elbows as much as me trying to curl 135 with a straight bar, I rather just do that. You know, because I feel like, I mean, I did that and I'm not even as big a frame as some guys. I did so many like straight bar curls and so many like skull crushers, like because you had to when you're starting, and just like slowly over time wrecked my elbows. And it's something as simple as like, oh, I could just go single arm and not destroy things. Fantastic. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, people have gone, I think again, some of the, you have to do all this barbell stuff is, if I was going to say overrated stuff, is historically overrated. And now on the flip side of that, I mean, I guess I wasn't thinking about this, but this is mildly clever. I'd say on the same side now is all the nerds have gone like hyper, everything has to be stable. So I'd say like it's underrated. Now nobody does barbell stuff that fits great. Like I would say like most barbell presses, like even if I'm getting super nerd, like they can fit great. There's few people that can't barbell press in a position that's relatively safe, whether it's an incline or it's an overhead press or whatever it is. People just demonize anything that's like not stable now. And I was like, it's, that whole stability thing, which is something, concepts that were being introduced 10 years ago in a relatively intelligent way has now been turned into this thing where if everything's not locked in this fixed plane of stone, you're just going to lose all your muscle, or I don't know what the thing is. And the reality is, I always said is like people like stability is only as important as skilled as the person is. So obviously, if you have somebody that's brand new that like they're doing this as they're doing dumbbells, like obviously they're not getting a whole lot of good stimulus out of that. But at the same time, if somebody can make a barbell look exactly like you're doing it on a Smith machine, then obviously stability is not the issue. So I mean, it's like one of those things. Anybody can just destroy a tool or, over glorify a tool. And again, that's the same reason where, again, for kind of semantic reasons, barbells can be great for some stuff and still just kind of arbitrary and problematic for other things. So,
I think the general consensus is now that using barbells and dumbbells is creates too much fatigue. I don't know. I don't see. It's just funny you mentioned that. I don't see anybody doing any incline barbell press in my gym anymore. I don't think I've last time. I don't think the incline bench gets any use other than when I
yeah,
PT somebody, and I will make them use of the incline barbell press.
yeah. No, I don't know, man. It's that kind of stuff is like nuts to me where it's, again, like the whole, I mean, it's, again, there should be like a relative, because, if you go on a scale of this, there's a reason bodybuilders don't do like clean and jerks. It's like, yeah, does that technically work your shoulders in some capacity? Is it a great shoulder exercise? No, because it's this huge skill. It's like a sport. But like the whole test should be like how well can you like progressive overload something, so like that's the thing. If something's so wobbly you can't ever move up on the weight and have it going where you want. But it's like people will be like, yeah, incline barbells are too unstable, yet there's guys that can incline barbell 4 plates. And I was like, if it was unstable they wouldn't have been able to progress the 4 plates. Like that's the whole test. If something just ends up being such a coordination thing for you that you can't ever move up in weight, then great for you, it's too unstable. But if a guy again can, like Dorian, just like do an incline press like a robot, like the same as he was on a Smith and is over 4 plates, obviously stability is not an issue. So it's just one of those things that, I don't know, people just ruin. People take things out of context on the internet, and it's rough out there.
Well, they like to cause a camp, don't they? You want to firmly
Yeah,
sit in one camp. You
yeah,
want to be like, I'm the machine guy. Um,
yeah,
I mean, because also the other one, everyone's like, oh, hardcore and old school, and it was all free weights, but like even in blood and guts and like with Leroy, it was probably 50-50 machines, really.
Yeah, well, it may have been more on machines.
hmm
The machines were designed um, well, more for safety because of the weight you're using. The stable, obviously, you can keep yourself stable to a certain degree with so much weight. And after sort of 4.5, 5 plates, things start getting a bit dodgy, bit unstable. So these machines were brought in or designed to enable you to go even heavier, but obviously in a good rigid stable position. So you move the weight using the muscle group that you needed to use, other than using everything else like your back and your heart, your jerking and whatever. So it kept you in a nice tight. It's like a seatbelt, like your car seat. The machines were designed to keep you in that nice, steady, firm position, so that you could move the weight safely, and yeah, without applying undue pressure on all the joints and whatever. So, um, yeah,
Wasn't some of the hammer strength
use
stuff designed around Dorian, Leroy? I'm sure you mentioned that some of the
yeah,
hammer strength machines were designed around Dorian's
Some of
frame
the
and
hammer
stuff.
strengths we actually went away were measured up for it, because obviously because of his size. You have a lot of machines that are good machines, real good machines, but someone like Dan trying to get into them, they're not made for the big guys. They were designed and made when someone like, I don't know,
Ian
17
Fonda.
stone, 18 stone was massive.
Yeah.
They were massive. Nowadays, they're 20 odd stone, aren't they? 22 stone, something like that. So the machines that were made in them days, which are good and safe, won't they won't take the physiques of the guys sort of today's standard.
Funny you mentioned that, Leo, because can you remember the Gen 1 hammer was much wider? So I'm assuming that's
Yeah,
kind of pencil around Dorian. Now the other Gen 1, like the generation of hammers, have actually gone smaller again. So maybe that's a kind of,
well, they're
I
made for
don't
the
know,
Beach
it's
Boys
a
now,
weird
aren't
one.
they? They're made
Yeah.
for the Beach Boys, the
I
Beach
didn't want to say
physiques.
that. I didn't want to say that.
You
Yeah,
are.
it's just weird. If you want the incline press, it's out here. Like now it's like you got to tuck yourself in there. I don't know. Is it a better design? Have they improved it, or is it just made for the kind of commercialized kind of gym now? Yeah.
yeah. It's definitely not a better design, that's for sure.
Some of the
I
old
can tell
Panata
you,
stuff is humongous. And again, the Panata stuff now is much smaller and kind of lots of levers and stuff on there. I think they have kind of commercialized things a little bit more now, haven't they? Yeah.
Wasn't Life Fitness just like hammer strength for normal people?
Life Fitness, I believe, bought Hammer Strength actually.
Oh, it was a
That's what
deal.
happened.
Yeah.
I believe at that point in time. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
them
they
there.
also bought Cybex, didn't they? And then Cybex is gone now, so unfortunately.
Ah,
Yeah.
Cybex.
For the record, I love hammer strength. I love it. I think they're brilliant. They're phenomenal. So
I love Hammer Strength as a gym owner because it doesn't break, touch wood.
that's like
I was literally saying this yesterday. We've had a pull down like 25 years from my old gym to the new one. Not a repair. Any of the other, like, I won't say any other brands. Yeah, we
Yeah.
kind of repair them every other month. But yeah, the hammer stuff's pretty unbeatable.
Yeah, it's
to be
made to
fair.
last.
It's just not that cool anymore, unfortunately. You know, the new fancy
Again, a lot of
levers and
people look
stuff.
at them and they think they're fucking dinosaur machines. But what they don't realise is them machines have built some of the best physiques that ever walked the earth. You know.
This one for you, Joe, actually, quickly, if you don't mind, because I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of the blood and guts reverse grip hammer pull down.
Yeah.
Now, my new gym Motorflex, myself and Charles we've pretty much got every angle of back machine in there, pretty much every brand. That's still my
Yeah.
favorite pull down. What's your opinion on the profile of that pull down? Because I see guys, and again, I'm not going to keep binging on about the same shit, like putting a D handle on there or whatever. That
Yeah.
underhand grip pull down just hits my lats perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it's funny, man. I don't know how much, I guess that'll be a good question for Leroy coming off of this. Just wondering how much you and Dorian talked about exercise selection. Because I think the biggest thing about that, if I look at exercises people were historically doing for lats, you had this notion that like if you wanted to get wide, you had to do wide. You know, we got all pictures of everything had to be wide grip pull up, wide grip pull up, wide grip pull up. And again, if I want a nerd, like this part, I think it's the path with that machine more than anything else. The fact that it goes, basically tucked in at your side. If I was going to pick one motion for lat stuff, it's moving things at shoulder width, just for no other reason. It allows for more range of motion. And so it's like, your elbow is going to follow your hand. So if you have like this pronated grip or neutral grip, your elbow is going to have to go out. If you do this more supinated grip like that, it's going to tuck your elbow in and it's going to promote that more kind of at your shoulder with arm path. And so I think the machine had an epic arm path, and especially for like huge people, like it actually diverged, so like it came from closer where even if you're big, obviously you could get that
Bennett
stretch
Roy.
across. Yeah, but it diverged, it pulled apart, so you could still get your arms at your side, obviously, even when you're Dorian side. And I think the loading pattern was overall like good. It kind of made it like the heaviest right in the middle, but it actually made it a little bit lighter when you got to the bottom, which I think was probably by accident, but it was still good. Like if you compare that to like, cable weighs the same thing the whole time. If it would be ideal to be a little bit heavier kind of in the middle and a little bit lighter in the bottom, which I think it just happened to be. But I'd say like that was, again, it's one of those things where I look back at how much like that's half the reason I loved analyzing all of Dorian's training is because he was doing so much stuff that nobody did at that point in time. And he's like the only person reading stuff that he said in the 90s. Like nobody said stuff like, oh, I thought about where the muscle's origin and insertion was. And I thought about how far can I get those apart and how far can I get those together. I mean, and the whole reason I like the whole nerd side is because I came from like, I just told myself I have to do everything that Arnold did. Basically, like just I would go in there and I'm just like, okay, I got to work out 8 hours a day because Arnold worked out 8 hours a day. I have to do all these exercises. And I first had to peel the Dorian stuff when I was like, oh, like someone's talking about like thinking about what things do and not just doing exercises. And then also then the going from super high volume to higher intensity just made massive sense. And that's when I made the biggest changes too, because I never knew how the workouts would work. Like we copy Arnold stuff and it would say stuff like 5 sets of 12. And like as a kid, I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with 5 sets of 12? Like, do I do my heaviest set first? Do I try and do like the same weight for all 12? For all 5 sets of 12 or whatever. And then obviously someone talking about, hey, just work up to one heavy set and try and beat it every time. I was like, oh, all right, I can do that. That makes sense. And yeah, but anyway, I honestly love that piece. I think there's a couple people that make decent pull down things now, but that is, I haven't really like done too much of a deep dive into it, but that's one of the first, like, I think really popular machines that actually had like that arm path. So,
yeah, because
Yeah,
we
well,
have this silly. Sorry, Larry, go ahead, mate.
Like I say, that machine as well. Your grip played a big part of it as well. We never used our thumbs. We never gripped the bar hard and tight. We gripped the bar, but our hands were relaxed. And the idea that was we wouldn't incorporate the arm, the forearm. Because you sometimes when you're pulling the weight, obviously you put your forearms sometimes pump up a lot quicker and burn than your back. That's because of how tight you're actually holding the bar. So what we used to do, we wouldn't disengage our thumb. We'd have the grip, the monkey grip on the bar, and just pull pull with the back rather than pull with the biceps and the arms. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake nowadays is they're training back, but they're actually pulling their arms. Instead of holding their arms in that position and pulling the back, they're actually pulling with their arms first. So probably 60% of the back ain't being worked. Their arms are being worked more than the back. And then you'll see him get off and, I'm pumped, way pumped in my arms. Of course you are, because you're fucking pulling with your arms. But a lot of them don't see that, and then they don't see it. They don't understand it. And when you're trying to you can't explain it to them. You have to show them. And then as soon as you show them and they get it, they go, "Fucking hell, you're right." The following day they come to you, my back. Good thing. They've got to learn to disengage the arms, engage the back, and again at the bottom of the movement, get that contraction, get that squeeze and pump. Because like Joe said, a lot of the machines they ease off at the very bottom of the movement. This is where you've got to attack it, contract the muscles, squeeze the muscles, push the blood in there, break the fibers up, and then release, start again. So I think grip is very important on a lot of exercises.
I'm assuming that's why you rip the rubber off the hammer strength machine, because we did the same at Durham. We took the rubber thing off, so you just kind of slick your fingers around it type of thing.
Yeah, you have to get that.
To reiterate the question embedded in Joe's, which was, did you have any conversations about programming with Dorian? Because I don't know this either, actually. Did you ever had a sit down with him and be like, this is what we're going to do? Were you part of that? Or was it talked about a lot? Or was like, well, we've got these machines, so we better use them once?
Well, we obviously, Temple Gym was a small gym, so we could only fit certain machines in. Now, these machines were changed. Obviously, Dorian was lucky. He got in touch with, Hammerstone got in touch with him. He went over, we went over and we tried some machines out. And the machines were far superior than the ones that were in Temple Gym. So we changed them. And obviously, we didn't have to learn how to use them properly. Anyone can sit on a machine or use a dumbbell or a barbell and move the weight from A to B. But it's obviously knowing your ergonomics and whatever, knowing that the body part you're going to use, how you're going to get that weight from A to B using that body part, what muscles you're going to disengage. So sitting down and discussing how we're going to do the exercise itself, where the spot's going to need to come in, or you'll practice the movement and you'll learn how the spot comes in. So bit of a conversation, not too much. A lot of it was see and go. But yeah, we had a few discussions on the grip, so we then burn out too quick.
So did you go to Hammer? Sorry, Joe, you go.
Oh no, I was gonna say, well, the two questions that follow up with that. I don't know, like Leroy, one, what year did you start training with Dorian? Because I don't know at what point you guys actually started working together. And then I guess kind of a little bit of an extension question off of Dan's there too is, like, obviously, like, I kind of get the idea, of course, when everyone's like pre-contest, it's like, these are the things we're doing. You get in, move, and there's not a whole lot of discussion outside of doing the things that you're doing. But I guess to expand on that, did you guys was it something ever like an off season or obviously between years? Was it ever like, okay, well, let's try this exercise over that exercise? Was there this kind of phase where sometimes you'd switch or rotate things? Or was it pretty much, what we see in Blood and Guts? Like, did those stay pretty much fixed like for years and years on end? Or was there, like, again, when you weren't in that pre-contest mode, was there a little bit of, well, let's try this or let's rotate this and that type of thing?
And 93, end of 93, I started training with Doz.
Okay.
And the Blood and Guts, that was our workout. We probably changed one exercise per body part per week. So if we trained chest and we done barbell incline first, followed by seated hammer press, followed by flies, or the following week we'll probably do a hammer strength incline, followed by pec deck, crossover cables, followed by seated hammer strength again, press. So we'll probably change one exercise per workout per week. Just change it over. So 1 week we'll do this exercise, the following week we'll be back to the normal. So we wouldn't change too much. It wasn't broken, so it didn't need fixing. We didn't need all these complicated and reinventing the wheel exercises. We didn't need them at all. We kept it basic. We used what we had, and it worked. It did work. It weren't broken. Nothing was broken, so we didn't need fixing. So we didn't need or there wasn't much discussion on changing this, that, and the other. However, if a muscle group hurt or a joint hurted a bit more than it should do, then we'd look at probably changing an angle on something or leaving that exercise out altogether for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, that was it. So what you're seeing in Blood and Guts was sort of there about what we've done week in, week out. Off season was exactly the same as in season, except off season the intensity got fucking nastier, and that was it.
How much did you guys like when you first started training? I always wonder, like, because again, something that I like, obviously, I do myself. I have joke with some people that I work with, like, I'm a professional spotter, but having obviously trained with a lot of people and done that, like, how much dialogue was there when you first started training? Like, how you would spot Dorian? Was it a lot of basically, did he kind of dictate, here's how I want it, here's where you want to, touch or don't touch too early or whatever, like, or is that kind of just you guys figured it out like together? Like,
before I started training with those, he was training with a lad called Kenny Brown. God bless him. So what I done, I spent a couple of weeks sort of to do the handover. Let's call it a handover. And I would get in there and I'd spot on his heavy stuff. I'd get in there and spot him, whatever. And if there was something that needed changing, then we'll talk about it. There weren't much. I know. Yeah. I sort of knew exactly just by watching him train, just by the way I've trained with other guys. You know how to spot. My idea of spotting is do as fucking little as possible. I want to save my energy for my set. So if I'm wasting my energy fucking moving his weight, that's not good for me. It's not good for him either. So if I had to use too much energy and too much of my own strength to move him and the weight from A to B, then we'd stop. We'd take some off. We'd be honest with each other. And being honest is an important thing, especially when you train with each other and you both got certain goals. So honestly, if it's too heavy, you got to let them know. If you're doing more work than you need to, you got to let them know. So you sort of become selfish. You're saving your energy for your set. End off, and they'll do exactly the same. He's not going to put in 110% spot getting you and your weight from A to B, because that defeats the object, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's different as well. What people don't realize as well is not many people are like incline barbell pressing 4 plates. The majority. I don't want to mean this. It is rare you see somebody inclining like massively heavy weight. It's different spotting somebody on 2 plates than it is from 4. You've got to be really switched on and kind of if it is too heavy for you to spot, someone's going to get hurt as well, aren't they? So
but you'll also see I spot with the minimum.
Yes, I know, Leroy. I've been there when I feel like something's going to explode, and you're like, Dan's been there as well. But that's perfect, isn't it? Like you say, there's nothing worse than somebody looking around and like you hit the static and they've missed it. Number one, you fucked the rep up, and number two, it's dangerous, isn't it? Like you see it all the time. The guys in the gym, they're on their phone and their friends benching, and they're like, "Shit, oh, sorry about that." Yeah, it is a skill, and you're the master of it, Davis.
Training, especially you professional guys. The way I used to look at it, and I still do today, is 52 weeks in a year. You guys are getting ready for your show. So you got your off season, you got your in season. There's 52 weeks in a year. That means you're going to train your body part 52 times a year, or you should. But then you got Christmas, you got holidays. So you take them weeks out. You may be ill for a week or so. So let's say, out of 52, you're probably training 48 weeks a year. That's 48 workouts. That's not, that 48 workouts, it's not a lot, is it? So every workout has to be cherished. Every workout you put 110% in. Your spotter is there. Your spotter is there for you, and you're there for your spotter. If your spotter don't do their job, boy, and they fuck your setup by taking too much weight off you, or not spotting you enough, or you fail completely on the set, you fuck that set up. You got to wait a whole week to do that set again, ain't you? You know what I mean? So that 48 then goes down to 47. So you're losing workouts, you're losing weeks. So you're spotting your partner and your spotting has got to be on the ball. You got to understand each other. You got to understand how each other's ticks. It's like me. You ran from me when we first. I mean, I know exactly I know just by the pressure I feel on your weight when you need a spot. I'm not going to give you a spot too early, and same as Dan. I'm not going to sap my energy. I'll give you a spot when you need it. However, I won't fuck your setup. And you know,
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at a couple of times when like Dan's when you're basically like, can you remember when your eyeballs looked like they were going to come out, Dan? Max was like, yeah, should we spot them now? Like, but yeah, you got to be patient, haven't you, on both sides? Yeah, I get it. I
and
totally
you
get it.
know,
And a 1,000%, people are nowadays are not taking spotting as serious as you've just discussed there, like how they're looking so deeply into it. It's just like quite casual now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, in them days, it was my job. You know, it was my job. I classed it as a job, so it was an important job. You know, if something went wrong, you know, I fucked up Mr. Olympia. That's not a good thing to have on your resume, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Joe, regarding the spot thing, just because I was watching the videos on the Dorian thing, is that you came up with a very snazzy way of describing the spotting that you saw Leroy, because you called it profiling. And I
Oh, yeah.
thought and there's a lot of semantics around now, isn't there? People,
Yeah.
but I like that. It was an introduction to the people that like long words.
Yeah. Makes me sound smart.
But
Attempts to.
it made it relevant, and I think the
Yeah.
thing that we're having now is that everyone thinks we're dinosaurs and all our training was shit. But
Yeah.
but actually, like, we're kind of just doing the same stuff. And
Yep.
obviously now you've got like Prime and stuff that kind of do some of it for you, you know,
Hmm.
like but yeah, so Leroy was Prime. So that was good.
Yep.
The other question was calf training, advice for team no calves. I hope that's not aimed at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did put that one in. Well, I'm team no calves as well. Leroy's got team
It
calves.
was you,
Yeah,
dickhead.
that one was me. Sorry. Hey, I'm in
Yeah.
team no high calves as well.
Yeah. No, I've actually got really high calves. I made mine moderately decent
Well,
in
tell
my
us
Tell us the
how.
day.
secret, Joe. Tell us the secret, Joe,
I don't know if I
please.
have it. Honestly, the funny thing that I used to do, I do have some like funny stories, like the most obvious stuff, because I used to do the same thing with certain body parts. I'm like, "Oh, I have crappy calves. I used to say, "Oh, I have crappy hamstrings." And then if I actually look at it from like a common sense standpoint, when I first started, I was always training, I do quads, I do like four horrible exercises. I'd do like, squats and then hacks and then leg press and leg extensions till I was like gonna puke. And then I do like a set of leg curls. And I'd be like, oh, my hamstrings suck. And then I do calves after that. Like, what do my calves suck? So I remember actually the first thing in college, I started prioritizing I was like, what's my best body part? I'm gonna start training calves before that. So I mean, it's like the most obvious for people is like if it's actually a bad body part, train it first and just train it before a strong body part. And so when I first started, like I probably trained my calves for like probably 10 years before I got a compliment on them. So it takes a while, but train them first. I used to do like, I had this machine. It was like it was like, I don't remember the brand, but it was like a 45-degree calf extension, one where you're loaded through the hips. And this is how much of a weirdo I used to be back in the day, is I would take this little like dry erase marker and I'd like mark on the machine where like I could see the weight stack moving up and down next to me. It was like a selectorize. And so I'd make sure that I would like, where's as high as I can get? And I'd mark it. And then I'd make sure that I did that. So if I was actually tracking reps, I was hitting the same point. Because I used to joke, if you're doing a curl and you chop off, even if you're doing a barbell press, you chop off, 25 degrees range of motion, it's like very obvious. It's like, why are you skipping that? You're cheating or you're not doing the bottom. But for calves, because you're only moving a couple inches, everybody chops off 25% and you never notice it. So I was like, well, I'm going to put a marker there so I can actually standardize my range of motion. So I don't think I have anything super fancy for calves. Train them first, train them frequent. I mean, any body part, can tolerate it more than once a week. Calves at least 2 to 3 times a week, I'd say. And they are a body part too that I say you need to do. If you're going to do the range of motion thing I said, you have to use like two different weights just because of how they externally express strength. So you want to do like, if you can actually get all the way, all the way, all the way up, like really short, balled up, contracted, like the weight that you can do that with is going to be like half of what you can do in just the bottom range of motion. So that's what I typically used to do as well too. I'd always have like two different weights. And you can do the same thing. You can do like one all out set of each or two all out sets of each or whatever you wanted to do. But because it's very distinct how much force they can produce at the top compared to the bottom. So if there's a calf secret for somebody, I'd say do form first. So establish your form, establish the weight that you need for your form, train them first, and then train them as frequent as you can recover from them. And that's the stuff too. That's like, it's all of the number one thing with, just to piggyback off of this is an opportunity to rant on the nerds these days that ruin everything is, everybody takes these good concepts or these good ideas, which are all rooted in something, but they've never, like, they have no body of evidence themselves. So like if you're 20 years old, like how much experience do you actually have? Because I've been there. I know what I had, which was nothing, relatively speaking. And if you've never had to like train people for like a living, like all of it's so easy. But the things people argue about, should I train it once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week or this or that or whatever it is, it's like just write down your workouts and see what gets you stronger faster. And like that's the end of it. Like everyone argues about volume, and like there's some discrepancy there. Like the short answer is some people do a little bit better with a teeny bit less, some people a little bit more. Some people can train this X amount of times a week, some people can do a little bit more frequently. Like just write down stuff, try both, and whichever works faster, do that one. And that's like right now, I've just canceled out like 99% of the things that people argue about online. And that's the shit that, like you said, the team thing probably makes me more mad than anything. Like the people that they'll put out information literally with the intent of trying to make other people, like trying to make themselves superior, which is like if you're gonna like try and help people, like that's the guise of what you're doing stuff online for, is you're trying to help people. Like don't present it in a way it's like, oh yeah, here's what's right and what I believe. And if you believe anything else in any way, shape, or form, you're an idiot and a horrible human being and should go kill yourself. But I'm just here to educate and help guys. Just, drop me a DM if you want online coaching. And
Yeah.
it's like, it doesn't, all of that is like, I can tell these people have never trained anybody because even if there is a difference, like the thing that I say that everybody pisses me off is no one tells me what the magnitude of the effect is, because it's like right now everyone will take a shit on if you only train stuff once a week. And I get it. It's a good concept. If you can train things more frequently, it just makes sense. The more frequent you can have this protein synthesis and muscle growth occurring, the better. But no one can tell me the magnitude of the effect because we don't have any good evidence. Like it would take like a year. Someone trains everything once a week for a year. Somebody trains everything twice a week for a year. Which one's going to grow more? And again, on paper, more frequent makes more sense. But really, what's like the magnitude of the effect we're talking about? And like, who are we talking about? And how are they doing things? And it's just then it gets all over the place with like, well, what does that one look like for one person, that one workout compared to two? And and like I said, you have kids that want to like take a dump on people and say, "Oh, you're an idiot if you want to train once a week." And it's like I know so many people, again, natural, enhanced, whatever, that have gotten ginormous training once a week. And again, I'm not saying I program that for everybody, but I'm still saying I'm not going to just take a complete shit on it because you've taken this concept of frequency and just turned it into some sort of like weird religion.
Yeah. Well, also it's
I
like
think sorry, I think it was trying
there's
everybody speaks in absolutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
the because the frequency thing and then volume and the other one of the other videos that you did that I thought was really good and I've stolen it and shouted it at people um was that like when you're doing like volume and reps, it's like, well, and you said take the lowest denomination of reps that you can do in one. Well, how many
Yeah.
different ways can you do that? And
Yeah.
what studies have put things in place to actually standardize that? And then work forward from that. It's like, oh, like
Yeah.
you're
It's
nowhere
complete.
again.
Yeah, it's garbage. I mean, there's absolutely you can't speak to it because it's again, it's such an astronomical difference. And it's like one of those things too, where it's like it's not like research is bad. Like I'm glad that people are doing it, and there's some interesting things you can glean from it for creating the most broad boundaries of training. And but even within training, it's like people want to turn. It's like, hey, if this they're comparing two things in training, it's like the one might say, hey, this one came out slightly superior, and then but people will turn that into like this is the best and this is the worst and you're an awesome person and you're a horrible person, and it's like that's not even what the actual research says. And then like you said, we take it through the lens of, okay, well, how much difference is there depending on that one rep? I still think it's the weirdest thing that we have like a base metric of anything. We define it more poorly than any other industry and everything else is built upon that. I rarely say this, but I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I had a good analogy that I came up with that I'm incorporating in some educational content I'm coming out. But it's I was trying to think for a long time of a good analogy for this, and right now it's like the equivalent of what has a bigger impact on the outcome of something. Like, and if you're using an analogy, is it the ingredients that a chef uses, or is it the way that a chef uses them? And I say right now, the individual, the trainee is the chef, and everybody spends all their time arguing about the ingredients. And I just think it's the most ridiculous thing in the universe because it's like it's the whole thing. It's like I could look at Dorian's program, like that's like there's no secret. It's like Dorian didn't hide what he did. It's like what's the secret program? Like that's the way people like what's the secret program Dorian did? And it's like you could take 100 dum dums off the street and have them do the exact same writing on paper, but it's not the ingredients, it's what the chef did with it. And that's the same that everybody does. It's a bunch of people, in my opinion, it's like all these people arguing about it are shitty chefs. They couldn't make something taste good if you paid them with all these ingredients, but they're going to argue over the ingredients anyway. And that's what most things are online now is people arguing over, all the things written on paper. Yeah, that kind of matters. At the same time, you want to expand the analogy. Like if you're trying to make something, you have all the wrong ingredients, you can't make it. So yeah, have some idea of where to start, have the raw ingredients, but then realize that's still the smaller portion of the outcome. And that's where we're at now. Just a bunch of people that can't cook arguing about which ingredient to use, and it all tastes like shit at the end anyway.
Yeah, they're just kind of over analyzing the ingredients, aren't they? Like the form, the tempo, the rep speed, the frequency. I think the main one that's missing is the fucking effort, to be honest, right now.
And what's the one thing that
think about
matters
all the other
most?
stuff. Yeah. Yeah, the kind of the effort, sorry, isn't it? Yeah, just how hard you were training. Doesn't matter what method you're using. If you're training like we won't even go into the reps and reserve stuff. I'll just say just do it until you can't do any more reps in good form, and then that's it type of thing. Sorry, I don't explain it as cool as Joe. That's why I wanted to get him on. He explains all the old stuff very in a cool way. So
Well, that's why I
not just
gravitate.
because he wanted, not just that reason, Joe. Just because I follow your stuff and I really like your stuff, what you put out there.
Well, the beard is definitely a contributing factor.
Yeah, Dan
That's
did
like
want to get
that.
you on for the beard.
That's definitely my best attribute that I have. Everything else is even when I have hepatitis and my body's atrophying, the beard's still hanging in there. So it's like,
Still
all right,
glowed. It's still glowed.
everyone will look at this hopefully, and they won't look at my shrinking physique.
Just on a side note, Leroy makes you train calves first on leg day. Like, oh, fuck.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, that's an old tidbit on there.
The next one was training differences whilst on or off cycle. I suppose this kind of has a carry on into like being natural.
Yeah.
You don't have to do loads of drugs.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably that's the one good thing I'd say now if I look at the whole of the industry. Like some of the things, I don't feel like there's as much of this idea that there's this different way that you train if you're enhanced or you're natural. I mean, it's like that. I think the thing that we know now that is like obviously as soon as you like hop on cycle, as soon as your androgens go from whatever this physiological level are to this super physiological level, like in that beginning period, even if you didn't train, like you're gonna change dramatically. So I mean, there used to be this illusion that as soon as someone hops on cycle, you could look at whatever they were doing and have like this like diluted lens of what's actually happening, where it's like again, you could make anything look like it works, right? When somebody goes on. But once you just all you're doing is raising your ceiling, and then once that ceiling is raised, everything's exactly the same, in my opinion. And so you could maybe make the argument that you could maybe, kind of hide some feedback a little bit. Maybe if you're reducing some soreness, that might indicate something. So maybe you could make the argument of like hiding overtraining a little bit or something like that. But yeah, man, even when I look through that, it's like I see so many outliers of people that are natural that I could just absolutely beat the shit out of it and could just keep going. I still feel like there's bigger factors, even over PEDs, that influence things like recovery and what people can tolerate. So, I mean, I guess if this question's for the same person, I mean, the only thing I guess I would make the argument for is the more important stuff is more important, meaning, intensity and the load you're using, proximity failure. I think the biggest mistake people do when they come on and off is if like you don't actually train properly in the first place, you can kind of get away with holding tissue a little bit more, I guess. So it's like a lot of people, they just kind of like, the people that just go in the gym and they just pump around and they pump, they get on cycle, they puff themselves up 15 pounds, they just go in the gym and get a pump. And then as soon as they come off and all they do is get a pump, then perceivably you're going to look exponentially worse. Whereas if like I would say if the difference when I have people go from, on or off is I will generally have them lower the volume, but their goal is to try and keep intensity, loads, proximity to failure as high as possible and keep that the same. And it's amazing how much better people can hold some tissue, obviously, if that's they're doing. So if I guess for the same individual, I would say it's pretty fair that I'll keep volume lower, when they're off cycle compared to on. But that's probably one of the only things. When again, I still even kind of address that on an individual basis because then there's factors like recovery from sleep and food and all that stuff as well. So
yeah, we're kind of a fan of that diet. Yeah, when you're on, you're kind of pushing the intensity way up there. When somebody comes off for what people generally call a health phase now, generally pull the volume back and just maybe say just train to failure without any kind of intensifiers, etc. type of thing.
yeah.
You're not going to have the same recovery ability, are you, Joe, when you're kind of blasting some sauce and then you come off type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of how we usually play it, isn't it, Dan, from a coaching perspective as well.
Yeah, the volume. The thing as well that I find is that if I leave, I'm really shit at leaving intensity because that's the reason that I train anyway, to unleash.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel if I try and do that, I do lose the momentum of having it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's worth cultivating and worth protecting. I think that
That's
should
a good one, actually, Dan, because yeah, I literally had this discussion yesterday. Can you forget how to train hard? I mean, because I've been kind of pulling some injuries and stuff, and I've kind of pulled the pedal way back, not by choice. And I teamed up with the guys, a few friends of mine, Sean, Crazy Dave, Lee, and Gary. We had a leg workout after hours, and it had been a while since I really pushed hard. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like a 10 out of 10, but it was up there. It was like 8 or something like that. And I thought, shit, I've missed this. And like, I was on the leg extension. When you get that horrible like burning feeling and stuff.
Mhm.
Part of me was like, we'll stop there. And like, that isn't me. Like, I don't know, was I losing the kind of, I don't know how I'm trying to explain it. Can you forget how to kind of, it's probably just obviously a mental thing, but yeah, if you're a little bit too complacent for a while, do you think you have to kind of build that back, or is it just like Dan just thinks it's always there because he hasn't really had to pull back to a degree because of like am I making sense here, Dan? Because I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean. By choice, I haven't been able to kind of go all out, and the time when I was kind of able to on the leg session, but like I've kind of have I lost it a little bit here type of thing. Or is it
Is
just because I'm in a different place to you and I'm not competing anymore, all type of stuff?
is there a physiological reason for this, Joe?
I mean, honestly, that's a fun question. I mean, that's about as enjoyable as a question you get. I mean, there's obviously there's some, I mean, there's something to androgens being really high, So I mean, I mean,
Yeah, I forget that feeling as well. Yeah.
I know personally when your androgens are high, like you might feel like things that are highly androgenic. I mean, obviously you might feel like shit everywhere else in life, but in the gym, there's a component that like where it's, there's aggression. There's something there that obviously immediately actually physiologically makes you stronger as well too. So I think people delude themselves a little bit because you'll get guys too that's like, you'll get dumb kids that now everybody apparently just does like all trend cycles and weird shit where it was like normal people back in the day mostly were like hated that and would like not use it as little as possible or whatever, or avoid it if possible as well too. But now you get dum-dums that just like all of their hardcore training content and stuff is, when they're on whatever, a gram of tren or something stupid. And then when they're off, they're just not doing anything. They're just like, kind of posting random stuff. So, that I think that's a factor for, again, some people when it's as extreme of they never learned how to train hard and then they're just like feeling themselves because they're feeling like a man for the first time in their life. It's like 10x man from an androgen standpoint. But from everything else, I think there's like a whole lot of factors that go in there because at some point in time, I mean, I think like it is something that's a learned skill. I don't care what you say because it's like you might have this idea when we're all young and stupid. You just want to go in the gym and just try and like hurt your training partners, which is awesome. But then the longer you train, you do refine like how do you hurt each other, right? And I mean, say that like in a good way where you learn it's like, oh, can I just swing stuff around and be a dum dum? Or like I say too, is like I train people like again honestly like I'm just gonna say because Dorian's like the best standard like all people that guys still to this day coming to me like monkeys that think they're strong and just swinging stuff around and then I'll just impose what I think is good form on them and they're like oh you make it like you like making guys feel like they're not strong or whatever and I just want to be like no I'm not being a jerk but you're just not actually strong right like if within these my baseline of what is strong is based within like a certain strict parameters of how you do things so I think there is a skill of learning how to like train hard and not just completely just swing stuff like maybe like a lot of us did when we were younger. Like, how do you make it as isolatedly, horribly painful as possible and as much as possible like a muscular thing and not an orthopedic thing? And then the ability to tolerate that as a skill, because obviously it's different for like, no one bails out on a bicep curl. I don't care who you are. If you've ever taken a true set of like 20 to failure on a leg press, a hack, whatever, everybody wants to bail out. Like physiologically, everything's telling you to bail out, and it's a huge skill to stay in that set, keeping things the same and not bailing out and quitting. So some of that has to depreciate. I mean, if you're doing that, because I've been there, it's like if I was doing that, every single session for X amount of period of time when I first started training with Ben, like that was the whole thing is I didn't realize with Ben, like when he would train with people the first time, it was like bullying. Like how long could you tolerate being bullied? And if you didn't quit and kept coming back, then great, you're my training partner for a while. And so, yeah, some of it I think is like, there's the balance of learning that skill. Some of it's just fun as hell, like regardless if it's appropriate, like training to failure is awesome. Doing stupid stuff in the gym is awesome. But then at some point in time, I do think you learn, like when you're like, 35, 40, and stuff is like orthopedically not great. There's like the lines get blurred. It's not like this all of a sudden, like everything feels perfect and all of a sudden everything feels bad. And you're also just not an idiot. Like part of you has to be like, I want to train as long as possible. And it's like, from 20 years of experience, like I could go in my gym and I could just not quit, like no matter what. I could just go in and not quit until something falls off or something breaks and be like, yeah, I'm good. I did it. I'm a man. But then now that you just have the real repercussions of like, I'm a man and who did I prove that for? And now I can't train for the next 10 weeks and now I'm depressed as hell. So I think there's like a learning curve that every like advanced athlete has to go through. And I think the good thing that you can, have had to coach athletes because I think the mentality is so all or nothing is the way I always like to look at it is like, take what you can get where you can get it. And that helps you not like have that skill depreciate because I've literally had people where I've had guys where it's like, their chest workout has been like the same 5 exercises in a row for like, since the 80s. And it's like as soon as they can't do one of them, they're like, I can't train chest because my shoulder hurts when I bench press. And I'll be like, let's go in the gym and figure stuff out. And I'll be like, hey, we just found 4 other chest exercises you can do pain free. And they're like, oh, I can do that. And it's like, yes, you don't have to just do this exact thing. We can find things that we make hard and painful another way. So sometimes, like if you have something that's recovering or something you can't train or something that hurts, I think at some age you just got to be intelligent that you're not going to dig yourself into the ground and at some point have irreversible damage. But you can almost always train hard somewhere. So if it's like, your shoulder's broken, train legs hard. Your knees are broken, train upper body hard. Whatever you got, one thing you can do. I can't do anything through my patella. I'm going to train my hamstrings hard. So I think that's just part of getting older when you train and still love to train hard is you do have to navigate a little bit of like, I don't need to prove to anybody that I'm capable of taking this set, to, 10 with, or 20 to failure with 8 drop sets at the end of it and then not be able to function for a while. I mean, I've done that. I've proved it. Now I'm just going to train as hard as I can where I can, but also not feel like it's always an ego thing. Cause again, like you said, like some of it's like, if for no other reason, if we ever prove, you need a rep in reserve or something stupid, I'm gonna be like, I don't care. I'm still going to train to failure and take what I can get because that's more fun. Right. So
yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at kind of now. And it's not an ego thing. I just like to kind of, when you're used to like say squatting an X amount of weight for a certain amount of reps, it just feels different when you I try and compare it, like not trying to say I'm a Ferrari, but like, yeah, someone who's used to driving a Ferrari around at like 150 miles an hour and say, hey, just drive this little car at 80 miles per hour. It's the same. Like you're still driving, but it's not the same. But like you say, Joe, like yourself, I've got kids and stuff. Like I've got a daughter, and I kind of have to think about the next day where, what I do that day, what can I still run around the field the next day without my kneecap wanting to fall off? So yeah, I think it's just I'm just feeling sorry for myself getting old.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
never
understand.
mind.
We can all sit around and feel sorry. That's the whole thing. I don't think
Not
people
sorry for
like.
myself, just annoyed at myself that I just
I
can't
have
kick
no.
the
I
shit
totally
out of
get it.
myself.
It's no because it's at the end of the day. I mean, obviously, in this perfect scenario, like the whole thing that's obviously hard about this sport is I think every single person from what age, like the thing that we are initially attracted to is this whole progress thing. It's like the first time you like
Yeah.
move up in a weight, like the first time you go like that's a joke. It's like when I would in my bedroom, it's like as soon as I could do one more push up, I was like, oh shit, I like that. And as soon as I could curl at 15 X amount of times, I would literally go and buy a 20. Like, oh shit, now I can do this for this amount of weight. Like the whole thing is just like this progression thing where it's like everybody wants to get stronger, everybody wants to get bigger. And seeing that, I mean, it's the same as anything in life, but it's just like a unique thing where the experience is immediately rewarding and you have this physical response that's rewarding. And like that feedback loop it's addictive. Like who doesn't like every part of that? Like, and obviously your training has to ramp up to match what's happening with your physique. And so it is, I mean, it is what it is. I'm like, again, in the grander scale of life, like you said, I'm not going to actually sit around and feel bad about myself or actually cry about it. But it is a weird thing when it's like at some point in time, you're like, shit, I'm like, from like age 15, my whole life goal was I'm just going to get as huge as possible, period. Like everything revolved around I'm going to eat in a surplus and I'm going to lift heavy shit. And it's like you didn't know where it was going to go or where it was going to end up. And then at some point in time, you're like, wait, I can't keep trying to get big forever. And that is kind of like, it is what it is. It's kind of depressing. It's kind of sad. But but we grow up, we move on. It's whatever. Get
Even
into some
you've
other
kind of
stuff.
pulled things back, haven't you, Leroy? Obviously, Leroy's we want it's somebody's birthday next week. We won't mention his age online, but he's getting more
My
of an
birthday
advanced.
yesterday.
Oh, was your actual birthday yesterday? Shit,
Yesterday.
devastated. I thought it was like for the party. I thought that was where the party
No.
was.
We
Oh
arranged the
God, I'm gonna
party
go and
for next week.
flush my head down the toilet now.
No, it's not,
Sorry, Leroy. Happy belated birthday,
Yeah,
Mr.
happy
Davis. But
birthday.
yeah, do you want to disclose your age online, Leroy?
21.
I thought it was
That's what I thought.
28.
I'm 60. I was 60 yesterday.
Oh,
Big.
that's a
I
huge
had birthday
milestone.
on one day now.
Oh, sorry, Leo. Sorry, I missed it. I am terrible at birthdays. I
Don't
missed
worry
my
about it, mate.
stepson's
Don't worry.
birthday as well.
Oh,
yeah,
We'll make
but-
up for it next week.
We're celebrating next week anyway. That's a big thing.
You'll have to just move the day. You were born on Saturday. Next week.
Yeah, I think Joel just knocked the last question on the head perfectly there. And yourself, and if you get your age catches up with you, unfortunately. And when you first start training, yeah, you have got goals, you got targets and whatever. And when you reach that target, you get excited for another target. And it's great. It lasts for it can last for as long as you want it to last. But the only sort of enemy we've got is age, and age unfortunately does catch up with you, and you've got to be sensible. You've got to be sensible. You've got to be mature about it. You got to listen to what your body's saying, and your body's saying, "I still want to do this, but I still want to be able to walk tomorrow. I still want to be able to carry things tomorrow." So you do have to cut back, and it's not. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. And you do get. I mean, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago. I was in the right sort of area where I was starting to hurt, which I never ever experienced before. Things started to fall off and whatever. So yeah, it took it took a conversation with yourself and other people to say, right, I'm fucking getting old. I've got to cut back end of. I'm not as agile. I'm not as strong as I used to be. So it's a big kick in the teeth. But by cutting back and by being sensible, we can still do the sport we love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like Dan though. It's like kind of like the kind of mental kind. I've had, like, when I was younger, I did have problems with aggression and stuff, and that's where I kind of put it into the gym. And sometimes, and I hate to say this, when I can't let it out in the gym, I do feel a little bit like, not that I would never outwardly project it on anybody and be a dickhead and shout at somebody because I was feeling that way, but that was always kind of where I could dump it in the gym and then it's gone. And I feel like I'm kind of like missing out on that now. But yeah, I'll just have to find some other ways to train hard. I'll just have to do like giant sets or some shit, or just something that I'm just trying to keep it challenging. We do this kind of Actually, Joe, there's a scientific question for you. We do this thing called like nasty five. It's basically an ascending set instead of a drop set. So we do 5 reps, go down the pin, 5 reps, go down the pin, 5 reps, go down the pin. Do you think that's good training, or is it shit from a actually
we go back down again? Don't forget the
sometimes we do if we're not feeling too crap.
Yeah, I mean the only, I mean the whole point, which is nice that science has kind of figured this out. I still think they have some stuff wrong. There's some misinterpreted stuff out there, but the part that I agree with and everybody agrees with, which is great, is you have to train close to failure. And in my opinion, the vast majority, 99% of people that are listening to this, and if they're at home, should train to failure. And honestly, some of the stuff we have now about fatigue, some of it I think is very valuable, like anything. But the irony is, it's valuable, just like Leroy said, it was perfect. Is like, so many people, like, this is so many, the whole thing that makes my head hurt is like a lot of the things, like my whole desire to like learn more or whatever was caused by problems. So like you have these problems, let's find solutions. And so it's obviously like, why did Dorian start using some of these machines and things? It's like, when you're so ginormous and you're so strong, like, who the hell wants to put a bar on their back? Like, that's the whole thing, is like, how much weight would Dorian have to put on his back with a barbell? And then how much is all of his torso have to deal with it to get to his legs, when he can just say, hey, I'm just good, put a billion plates on a hack squat, right? It's out of necessity. And so, a lot of the fatigue management comes out of necessity, and it should be for huge and strong people. It provides benefit for it. But you have these people that are skinny and small that haven't even figured out how to train hard enough to have fatigue be remotely an issue, talking about fatigue. So honestly, like the stuff where it's like any like method where you need some fatigue to get to that failure point. So how you go about it, like the only argument you can make a little bit with that is like, is it more fatigue? Would it be better just to whatever? I don't know. And honestly, it's one of those things too, where it's like you said, because you're accumulating that little bit of fatigue on the way up, it's probably helping you not have to orthopedically take as much of a toll as you would going immediately right into a straight set. And it lets you hit those failure points probably more tolerably. So as a method that just is doable and still produces results, I mean, I think makes great sense. And there's a ton of people where it's like, yeah, again, you have people take stuff out of context. Is like the ability to be able to hit those points and what you have to do for it. That's where some of those like pre-fatiguing things make a lot of sense. Even if, again, they don't make sense for someone that's 20 maybe, where it's just like, just learn how to do hard straight sets. But, out of necessity and still being, perfectly, checking the boxes of what you need to actually stimulate some muscle growth, obviously they work.
Just call them pensioner fives from now on. Pensioner fives.
Yeah, then you just have to make up a badass name for them. Just find a number that hasn't been claimed. Because how many numbers we've got? 6, I think, has been claimed. We've got
21s is gone. You might know this, Joe. Was it Arnold who made 21s? I had this discussion again in the gym of the day.
I don't know who
was it. Arnold who made it?
Arnold, I think. Was it Arnold and Franco?
You wonder how much stuff Arnold. You wonder how much stuff Arnold made, or he just like some skinny guy in the gym was doing it, and then Arnold did it, and then everyone's like, "Oh shit, look at Arnold doing it," and it became Arnold's. Like, was Arnold really the first guy to Arnold press? I don't know. Like, probably there's, again, some skinny guy was doing it. Like, look at that idiot, and then Arnold was doing it. Everyone's like, "Oh man, he looks good. I need an Arnold press." So it's yeah, who knows who did that stuff first? Honestly, like that's the joke. I mean, like, of all the things that the nerds have done, and it's beneficial, I think, of the past 20, 30 years. And again, huge credit, in my opinion, to someone like Dorian. It's like that's half of what you need. And if I feel like I've provided any small benefit to the industry in any way, shape, or form, it's like initially seeing someone like Dorian, because again, prior to Dorian, I honestly don't think like guys did hack squats. I mean, hack squats existed, but they certainly weren't like a staple. And like that's just one random example. But it's like you just need to see someone massive doing it, and then like you feel like you have permission to do it. You're like, oh, okay, well he like if someone else is doing it and they're small and they look like crap, and they're like, do hack squats. You're like, shut up. And then but you see Dorian doing hacks, you're like, all right, cool, I can do hacks. It's gonna be all right. And so I think of like the good things in the industry now, because like the whole, and especially the nature of our conversation we just had, of people like wanting to be able to train for a long time. I think the notion of feeling like you don't have to do very specific things is probably one of the best things to come out of people thinking in the past, 30 years or so. Where again, there's so much stuff where it's like I joke, like for me though, like there's few exercises like this, but even with manipulating, like flat barbell bench press does not work for me. Like I have a smaller rib cage and longer arms, which is probably the reason it's not ideal. But I literally like I've injured myself more times doing that exercise before the age of 25 than I did out of anything. And I just felt like I had to do it. Like you're a man, I have testicles, I have to bench press. People are going to ask me about it. And I just forced myself to do it. And it was finally like after the age of 25 when I was like not caring so much about like how much you lift stuff. And I was like, I just want to be big. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do it anymore. And I could do incline. So like even in my brain, like I could do incline barbell and like that's still manly or whatever the hell that means. But just stuff like that, where it's like I honestly like my most like of all the little injuries that I picked up, like I have like my AC joint, I had it separated, and it's like still like the ligaments like really far apart. My acromion sticks up high on this side, and it's literally from just excessive volume from pressing stuff that I shouldn't have been pressing. And so it's stuff like if I could go back in time, like not that again, who gives a shit now? It didn't really make a difference on my career. But if I'd be like, hey, dum dum, like stop bench pressing, like your shoulders will be better for it. You'll be, you'll look bigger for it. Like that kind of stuff I think is actually great, where it's like, because a lot of it is just like monkey see, monkey do. You get people like, oh, I can't do that because that's not manly. And it's like, no, like it's okay. You can do other stuff that trains the muscle and you don't have to feel like you have to do these things.
I'm laughing because I did exactly the same with the bench press, Joe. I
Oh,
just did nothing for you, but you had to bench press that. And plus, you didn't have that much other like choice back then either. There wasn't any
Yeah.
kind of decline press machines or convergent chest presses and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just bench press until my elbows and front delts fell off, and like I
Yeah.
had no chest. So I just
Yeah.
went shallow incline, shallow decline type of thing. But yeah, it's funny.
you
to
are
see
so
that.
right though. Someone was going to ask you about it randomly on the street. If you looked like you had trained
Oh
ever
yeah.
in your life, the guy on the bus was going to just. There's always the guy on the bus. He just
Oh yeah.
gravitates in. You don't know where he comes
Here's the
from.
thing though, Dan. No, you don't ever hit like back in the day. It was how much you bench press. Like
Yeah.
now, it's I'm not going to take the piss. Like, how
No,
much? How
you
much
don't.
can you like de-handle pull down? Like
Yeah, yeah. You know what is funny is
yeah,
you
you
really
don't hear
don't. I don't.
anybody now, do you? Like,
I
how much
don't
you
hear
bench, like, how
anybody.
much you squat, like, because nobody's doing it type of thing.
True.
Because it's funny. My wife and I have been together since I was 20, and I was like I was into working out, but I probably trying to think of how big I was at 20, probably weighed like 190, 195 pounds. Yet I didn't really look like I still worked out with a shirt on. And then while we were together, like I got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it got to some point in time where like all the time, I don't know if I still have like one of those weird faces or it's because of my beard. Like I still have like strangers always find shit to talk to me about. Like when I was like way bigger, that was always people would come up to me and talk to me about everything. They'd always ask me about bench press. They'd ask me what I eat and all that shit. And my wife still thinks it's the funniest thing. We went to like a water park at one point in time and we're like on those like inner tubes together. Like we're on the group inner tube, and it's like you're going down this slide. There's like this halfway point where someone like has to like stop you and turn you and like put you the rest of the way down on the water slide. And as we're doing that, like as we come around the corner, I see it's like kind of this younger kid there, and he's like the person that's going to navigate our thing. And as soon as he sees me, I see his like face light up, and he's like really excited. And I'm like, I don't say anything though, because I'm like, you don't have a dialogue while you're going down this water ride or whatever. And so he grabs our raft, he's like pushing us by, and I can see like he wants to say something, but like he can't quite get it out with his excitement or whatever it is. And so literally as he's like pushing us over this edge, like we're going down like the waterfall or whatever it is, he's like, how much you bench? And so like I literally had to answer as like I'm going down and I'm like 350, like as I'm going down this thing. And I was like, and the whole thing at some point in time, I stopped bench pressing. So my wife's, do you really bench 350? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't benched in like 5 years, but I got to tell him something. Like I'm going down a waterfall. If I didn't give him an answer, he'd be like, why didn't he answer me? I wonder if he
Yeah.
hates me, mad at me.
Well, if you
But
were
yeah,
just
I
like,
used to,
actually, I don't bench press anymore.
yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. Come down to the bottom. Let me explain why it doesn't fit my structure. No, like, yeah, you can't do that. Yeah. Just make
That
up a
happened. That
number.
happened to me on the Venice boardwalk. Very quick story because it's the same thing. So remember when America was like really cheap to buy trainers and stuff at the Nike store, and it was like $2.2 dollars to the pound and all that kind of stuff. So us UK guys used to go over there and just stock up on loads of stuff, bring it all back. And I was walking up the Venice boardwalk, with loads of bags, and I had a bit of a shit time at one of the stores. I just wanted to get back to the hotel room. I was staying at the Marina Pacific where Arnold and everybody used to stay at the time on near Ghost Gym and stuff. And this guy was like, this was like the fifth time for the day. I was like, hey man, how much you benching? And I was a little bit rude. I was like, I'm just going to ignore this guy because it's just not today. Like, it's one of those days. And have you ever been to the Venice Boardwalk, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strange people there, like doing martial arts. And like some guy
Oh
come
yeah.
over and got me in a headlock. And he's like, hey man, I'll show you how to fucking box and stuff. And I'm like, oh, could you just leave me
Yeah.
alone, please? Yeah. So
Yeah.
this guy asked me how much I was benching. I did ignore him, just kept walking. And then like, he just asked again, like, hey man, how much you benching? And this time I'm like fucking 20 meters up the road. And he must have like shouted like 20 times, like that you just said there, Joe. Like you just down the thing, like, hey
Yeah.
man, how much you pension? I was like, Jesus Christ, like,
They
just
gotta
leave me
know,
alone,
man.
you crazy mofo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. Just
Yeah.
say 495 for 20.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I've learned.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
yeah,
make
just
something up.
495
Yeah.
for 20.
Yeah. Yeah. Just some ridiculous number. Yeah.
When I went to the Brawl Walk, I ended up with the most amount of mixtapes. That's all I can tell you.
I was lying on the
Oh.
beach in LA, and the guy's like, hey man, you want to box? I'm like, no, I'm not a boxer. Like, you want to wrestle? I'm like, no, I'm just trying to like relax on the beach. Like, you want to put that muscle you want to put the muscle for some hustle or something? It's like, I'm just trying to get a suntan. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some strange individuals, no offense in the
Right.
Venice.
It's the weirdest spot ever, man. It's kind of ruined now. I used to have all people want to. It wasn't people fighting as much. I used to have people always want to arm wrestle me. I've been asked at least a
Yeah.
dozen random times. You're out somewhere and I'd have random guys, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't. I have no desire to do that whatsoever. And it's like, if that would have happened more when I was like in college and stuff, it would have been stupid and turned into a fight or something. Now I literally have people like adamant. Like I've had people want to like give me like I'm trying to remember the last time I had this. I had a guy that literally probably weighed 150 pounds, and I'm probably like 250 at some point in time, and I'm out with my wife somewhere, and he like wouldn't leave me alone to arm wrestle. And I'm just like, out of sheer principle, like one, I told myself, I was like, at some point, I'm like, I'm not arm wrestling anymore. I've seen people like, as soon as you see somebody
In the
break
video.
bones and shit, yeah,
The
and then
worst thing
and
you can
then
do as a bodybuilder is arm wrestle. Your
yeah, and
arms like sore
that's
for a
that
week.
yeah, exactly, and that's the whole thing too. I was like, at that point in time, I'm like training, and I was like, I will do nothing to like mess up my workouts. Period. I was like, I don't care what it is. And at one point in time, though, this guy's come up, he keeps going. I'm trying to remember. He offered me like $500 or something, and I literally outweighed him by like 100 pounds. And I was like, every part of my body just wants to like fold this dude over the table. But I'm like, is he gonna like stab me? Everyone has guns over here. Is he gonna like shoot me or something or whatever? And I was like, you know what? I literally told him at some point. That's what I did to divert at the end. I was like, hey man, I was like, my muscles are for my wife, man. They're not for you. He like looks over my wife. He's like, all right, man, fair enough, fair enough. And I'm like, girl's like, why was that guy so? And my wife's just sitting there like she thinks it's hilarious. Like she just like loves to watch when people come up and say random shit to me or confess what they've been eating for the last year to me, and I don't care. And yeah, it's funny stuff.
Yeah, Dan, I think yourself and Leroy should have an arm wrestle at Leroy's birthday party. We'll film it.
Yeah,
Even if
film
I
it. I want to
could
see it.
beat him,
You can still take him out, Davis. You can still
I
take him
couldn't.
out.
I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even do it. It's like getting beaten up by your dad. You just let him do it. Like,
Yeah, you got too much
I'll,
respect. You would, yeah.
I'll ground you
I'll
down.
still say Leroy could beat you anyway.
oh
I'll
yeah,
ground you.
100%. Um, Joe, do you have any questions for Mr. Leroy?
No, I mean, I think those are my first couple that I had in mind already. Was talking about obviously exercise selection, doing the spotting process. I don't know.
I
I feel like I
mean,
should have.
kind of the reason that we like, and we had got Dr. Mike on and stuff like that, and the one of the main focuses of this is basically just to shine light on the fact that there isn't huge differences in what's been going on, and obviously there's loads of podcasts. One of ours is a podcast about bodybuilding, but you could summarize it pretty easily. Um, and the language and stuff that's being used um, is just like what is like going on Netflix. How would you navigate like starting training now? You go on Netflix, you want to pick a film. There's too many films. You look at all
Yeah,
of them. You don't actually watch any of them, and then you go to bed having not watched any of them.
yeah,
And so I
yeah,
guess what we were trying to do was kind of bridge the gap and create some information that people could actually use.
yeah. It actually makes me feel like, going back, because like the problem, like I said, it's I forget, and it's you get so deep into it, and this is the only thing I've ever done my whole life, and I've obviously taken it to a level where like my whole thing is I like to understand what's going on. Like that's my whole thing. I like to take it to a high enough level where I don't ever look at anything as good or bad or right or wrong completely. It's like how much context can I create out of this? And again, it could turn into like, yeah, this has 99.9% of the time no use, or this thing is very valuable a lot of the time, but not really like, one thing or the other. But the problem is like, again, I did so much stupid stuff. And I honestly really feel bad for this. Like Jordan had a post about this today about like obviously like how much people just like sweat all the stupid stuff. And it really made me think is like honestly, I loved all the stupid meathead stuff I did for like a decade. Like how much, but like, and the biggest thing I love too is like I'm preaching to the choir with you guys because like even I'm on the tail end and I started technically like the late 90s, but like bodybuilding still wasn't cool then. I mean, bodybuilding was the opposite of cool. Like the first competitive bodybuilders that I knew, like working at like a world's gym when I was 16. I even remember like I was reading muscle building mags and shit, but like kind of some guys that were national level guys that weren't pros or not magazines. I'm like, look at these freaking weirdos. They were even my people, and I was like, they were like the cliche wearing like tights all the time, and like they were just embodying like how much of a cliche meathead can I possibly be? And but I loved all of it because like you did all this stuff just because you loved it and you were passionate about it. And it's like in spite of all that, like you would tell people what you were into and they'd literally laugh at you and you'd be like, oh, yeah, it's awesome, right? Like it was like weird, but you felt great about it. And then there was something to the fact that like, but you would do it anyway. Like you were so obsessed with weird shit that no one else did, and it was great. And so I have all that filed away. And so when I put stuff on top of it, it doesn't take away any of that stuff. Like I can look back analytically on stuff and be like, yeah, this was dumb, but man, it was like fun and I'm happy that I did it. Or, if I really could go back, would I have changed this thing? Maybe, if it was just how far could I take my physique? And people they don't have that now. Whereas like I can look at, fatigue or the angle of something or whatever and be like, yeah, this is, this has a place or whatever it is, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. Um, so I think I have a video somewhere on YouTube where I did something where it's like, it says like, putting on muscle is simple or something like that. And it makes me want to maybe like readdress it, where it's like, what's the stuff that actually really matters, for people? And it's like, adherence is king, so pick some sort of diet where you're getting adequate protein, some pretty good frequency, figure out how to get some decent sleep, in the gym, pick exercises that are, for lack of a better term, bigger movements. And even though I could get in some nuance there, but some bigger movements that don't hurt, and write the same stuff down over and over and over and get stronger within bodybuilding rep ranges. And then just all the other stuff should be stuff where it's like if somebody says like, hey, I'm currently training everything once a week, and somebody says maybe I should try this split where it does stuff like twice a week, like don't go into it thinking you found like the holy grail. Just like give it a shot if you want. It's like, okay, I've never done like half body split. What the hell? Give it a shot. And then do the exact same stuff. I'm gonna eat my protein, I'm gonna get good sleep, I'm gonna write down everything that I do, I'm gonna try and get stronger at all these lifts. And if you try something different and it works better, you're like, oh sweet, I got it. Or it's like maybe I'll try this movement and it doesn't hurt my, oh sweet, it doesn't hurt my elbows. Great. So people could just like look at things analytically within the framework of like, okay, adherence is king, pick some stuff that doesn't hurt, train really hard with great form, close to failure or to failure. Most people just to failure, and then repeat the process. And then everything else is like if like I honestly feel like some people it's like if you don't have like a again if you're not very like pragmatic or just again kind of have that analytical brain where you can just look at stuff, then it's like maybe just like don't go on social media. Because it's again if you're influenced easily one way or the other. I mean, I don't really know what it would have been like. When I'm like if I was like in 20s and like then I'm looking at some people that speak so confidently and so definitively, and then they can know how to screenshot a study, and I'm like, oh, science, oh shit, that means something because there's science now. And, it'd be tough to maybe navigate that. You got people could actually be growing and getting bigger in their muscles, and then you read something like, oh shit, like, am I actually like that's the whole thing that's hilarious to me. Is like I've never had a hard time like when I was training people at 22 and I had no idea what I was doing, I still knew how to get people bigger. It was never once I had clients that was like, oh shit, this person's not growing. Like I never had that problem. It was like navigating like the idea, can I do it faster? Can I do it more pain-free? Great. Think about that stuff. But like now it's like, yeah, people, it's like if you're growing, like you're winning, just keep up the good work, throw in some stuff to fine tune here or there. Don't let your joints fall apart. But if you're growing, doesn't matter what you read online. If you're growing, you're winning. Keep going. Right. So I don't know.
Yeah, my study back in the day was just look at what the big guys are doing and do that,
Yeah.
basically. I
The,
know it's not very scientific, but
there's the thing as a coach, that you're actually battling social media waffle. Like you'll see someone put a post up or a study or whatever that's supposed to be like, have a think about this, and you'll get like your phone will ping like 4 times, and it'll be like,
Oh yeah.
I saw this, is it? It means that what you've told me is bullshit.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll be like, oh right, okay, where do we start with this?
Yeah.
a team meet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and I think that's like the so it's again I say it's like a good and the bad as a whole. Like there's so much like crap in the industry now. You can look at it and be like, oh man, like this is rough. But then at the same time, like that's the whole thing is like I never feel, I don't watch stuff. And even if something's good or different or whatever, I'm not like, oh gosh, like I need to go rethink my life now. It's like if you actually like the same for you guys, if you're training clients and you're producing results with them and they come and they say, hey, what about this thing? Then you can have a conversation with them. I mean, depending on your client, you can make fun of them first, but then if you actually explain it, you're like, oh no, I understand this thing, trust me, and here's why this or that. Or if you ever had somebody say something, because I'll have people sometime that like will send me something like, hey, what do you think about this exercise or whatever? And sometimes it's like, oh, I see where they're coming from. Yeah, like whatever. Yeah, try and swap that for that. And I think that actually, as much as there's garbage out there, it actually can help build more value for the people that actually provide value. I mean, it's in the short term, it can, I think, detract from people that are doing stuff good. And, maybe it could detract from people's business in some way, shape, or form. But like long term, some of that stuff like tends to work out because, like I said, if you're actually helping people produce results, then none of that information can take away from you. Like again, if you just look at it, like I said, like analytically, it's like, oh, if a client tells me this or shows me this, I can talk to him about it. And they're like, oh, he knows what's going on, okay, or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not a negative thing for
Yeah.
the people that do know what they're doing. It's that we have the regurgitation model of
Oh
people
yeah.
that haven't got it, then
Mhm.
regurgitating it without context, like kind of thoroughly missing the point. And that's the scary thing, isn't it? And I refer to them as fans. And it's okay to be a bodybuilding fan. You actually don't need to
Yeah.
be involved. The person who's like a big hockey fan, I'm a big hockey fan. I can tell you stats and scoring and percentages and stuff like that. I couldn't skate,
Yeah.
you know, but I know about all of the science and the stats and stuff, but I don't need to skate. I can just watch the hockey and go, that is cool.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think the gym is so accessible. Obviously, everyone has the opportunity to be involved.
Yeah.
So rather than screaming from the terraces that the pros are doing it all wrong,
Yeah.
um, and then also the rage bait thing that people have got into, where they've realized that you can get followers by saying ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I mean, some of it's like honestly the thing that, I hate to sound like old, I guess. But like the two things that do just honestly are just purely like negative is now you have people that they've never actually done anything. So the only thing they can do is talk about other people and what they've done. It's like where there's whole people like it makes my head hurt. Their whole business is like, someone else on the screen talking about something that maybe they're actually a coach or whatever. And then like they'll pop up and be like, hey, let me explain why this guy's an idiot and, deserves to burn in hell and has no muscle or whatever. And like the whole thing is like I hate it because there's no dialogue. You're not like if you really thought that way, have a dialogue, right? Because it's not hard. I could literally take anything if you wanted me to, like, hey, give me $1,000 just out of you. Like, there's not a single video that I couldn't take and I couldn't make a logical sounding argument to make someone sound like an idiot and make me sound like the smartest person in the universe. And then they're not there. So it's like, hey, look, everyone. And then it just plays into like basic psychology where people are like, oh gosh, I want to be on that guy's team and not that dumb dumb's team.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I hate that. And I also hate the level of like where it crosses over to the point of like disrespect. I mean, like there was like when I was coming up, like, dude, I was like, the first time I got to see like pros in person, like I was like, I don't want to say straight up fangirling, but half fangirling, but also super respectful. And even if there was like somebody that I saw where it's like, like the joke is like, you see somebody doing something where it's like, I don't even know what the cliche thing is, but not the most brilliant practice. Whatever, who gives a shit? It's like I'm still going to be respectful as human being for like everything else that they do and everything else they bring to the table. There's some pros that we follow are not like, oh, he's known for like the best training in the universe or something. It's like, no, he's awesome. So I'm going to go be respectful and kind and because he's awesome, and it's like people do the same stuff now. They'll take videos and they'll talk shit about people that aren't there. And I was like, and these are people that like should be like your peers and people that you have like respect for in the industry. And like this might be the first, like I can't imagine too, if this is your first interaction, you're taking a video from this person that you don't know that's been doing this 20 years longer than you, and you're going to try and critique them when you're not qualified to do so. And then you're just being a dick. Like that kind of stuff like pisses me off. I was like, just be respectful. Like, man, like you're just, and that's again, that people don't realize too, like if you actually want to be in this, like the industry's not huge. Everybody knows everybody. And it's like this is potentially you're never gonna be anywhere in the industry if like that's how you're trying to crack in. I'm gonna be 22 years old and talk shit about everybody that's been doing this 20 years longer than me to try and make myself look smart. It's like it's just, all that stuff pisses me off. If there's one thing that pisses me off, that
Yeah,
pisses
that's
me
what I
off.
said to Dan, like all this rage bait stuff. how does that translate into like getting good clients and stuff? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, get some
Yeah.
traction, but like I don't understand that somebody's going to say, hey, I'll choose this guy for to coach me because I've no idea. Yeah, I'm kind
Yeah,
of lost with it.
unfortunately,
I'm like, yeah,
unfortunately, there's a like I said before, there's a lot of gullible. This sport gets under your skin, so people want to get they want to get a physique and they want to get it as soon as possible. They want to take as many shortcuts as possible because they don't want to train hard,
Yeah.
and they're gullible. So they'll read this crap, and they're the targets for these people who want to bullshit about other people's ways and means. So I would say at least 75, 80% of the people who read this stuff are gullible, and they'll believe it. They'll believe it's the holy grail. They believe that's the way to do it. I'm going to get big, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, because he said so, and he seems to know what he's talking about. But in reality, like Joe said, all he's done is taken that information from somebody else, who's taken it from somebody else, who's taken it from somebody else, and put it on their medias. It's sad. It's sad that they believe this crap, and it's because they don't know any better, unfortunately.
But it also detracts from the real guys, and like I can't remember how long ago was it when you started posting, Joe? Was it like because I came across you like mildly with the Ben Pakulski thing because I was obsessed with his
Yeah.
legs because my legs are shit. So I was
Yeah.
like, I will watch everything that this guy does.
Yeah.
And I
I
just
first,
yeah, sorry.
no, I was gonna say I first started posting, I think was 2015. So I moved up and started working with Ben in like 2000 from where I live in Tampa now, but I moved from like an hour and a half away uh to I think probably maybe that was 2013, 14, something like that. And then yeah, it was 2015 where I actually started posting on social media.
And did you have you done seminars and all that sort of stuff? Because I was a teacher, because you came with some complex shit and you laid it out. So like, because we always said like, if you really know your shit, you can tell an idiot. You know, you can
Yeah.
explain it to an idiot and like, well, maybe I'm that idiot. But I was like,
Yeah.
this guy, he's like breaking it down. I don't necessarily need to know like molecularly what's going on and sarcomeres and stuff, but this
Yeah.
is giving me the insight and you I don't know whether it was you or whatever, but the moment arm stuff like became like
Yeah.
a popular term that was like really useful talking about loading
Yeah.
and things like that. But the but you were able to explain it like thoroughly so you could watch the video and actually get something. Whereas
Yeah.
like a lot of people are just going straight to the end point
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and
and
that's where it's like, and that's I tried to pride myself on that because prior to doing social media, like I said, like I had, work with a ton of clients and I had like developed trainers. Like that was my probably literally had 100+ trainers at different places work under me. So it's like the whole thing came out of like necessity. Like, well, what do you actually need to know? What actually makes a difference? And there's going to be like I will joke like sometimes like there'd be terms like out of accuracy sake I'm going to say moment arm or whatever, just so we know what I'm talking about. But at the same time, trying to make it, have like not be hard to understand, like no real mystery about it. Like if every and it's some of that stuff with that should be like to the point where like people inherently know it. Like why is the bottom of a squat hard and the top's easy? I think you know about moment arms if you can answer that question, whether you can articulate it perfectly or not, who cares? And so yeah, that's the whole thing where it was like again, I just wanted to understand what was going on with stuff and obviously be able to explain that. And there's a difference too. Like that's the whole thing. I try and do a better job now too, where it's like how much of this matters for actual people and how much of this matter if you're just like a trainer or a coach, And so it's again, if you're a trainer and you're a coach and you're applying force to people's bodies, I feel like you should know it a little bit. And like the same thing, but that there's people that will say moment arm or say whatever to try and sound super smart. And it's like that's the whole thing for me. It's like, well, draw me a picture of it. And it's like you can't draw me a picture of it. You don't really know what you're talking about. You don't, if I can't explain it to like you said, I can't explain it to my 6-year-old, then I shouldn't be talking about it. So yeah, I mean, all of it's trying is if there is some semi-nerd stuff, it was still through the lens of like, well, what does this actually have to do with training? And can I actually explain it in a manner that actually, clearly has something to do with training?
yeah. I think
uh,
initially social media was really good, and I think it's only like the last maybe 2 years it's kind of went to shit with all this nonsense and craziness about all the overcomplicated stuff and the nerds, if you like. Didn't it used to be like that? I don't know what kind of attracted them all. Maybe just because they know they can make some money by, like Leroy said, just preying on like gullible people who believe their bullshit. Unfortunately,
um do you remember Machiavelli motivation? That was like my whole Instagram for like
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
spoke to Nick Vision
first two
earlier
years.
actually. because he did some of the blood and guts in colour, didn't he? Did you see it? Did you see it, Leroy?
What's that, mate?
One of the guys who does the motivation videos, he's been converting some of the blood and guts into colour.
Oh, right.
But obviously it was filmed in colour, wasn't it? Because I actually spoke to Dorian yesterday on WhatsApp and I said, like, because he mentioned about 6 months ago, because the guy posted some colour of this before. And I said, have you ever thought about releasing it in colour? And he said, it might like kind of ruin the kind of effect. I'll send you the colour one. It actually looks pretty good. I would buy it. But then again, I'm a die-hard blood and guts. Like, you could release like 25 times and I would still buy it.
I was just saying, we might as well
Anniversary edition, whatever.
10 times.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it'll be good in colour. And I said to Dorian yesterday on WhatsApp, I said, listen, are you going to release it? He said, yeah, I'm thinking about it. So he could be making a re-emergence Leroy in colour.
So, Joe, we've taken up a lot of your time, which we are very thankful for, of course.
Yeah, all good.
So, to cap it off, I'm going to frame this a little bit different because I feel like they're fishing with this one. Have you seen, I don't know whether you've had too much experience with the UK, but from what you've seen, do you think that there is any differences that you can identify between the way that bodybuilders train in the UK compared with the US?
Oh, come on, Dave. You didn't mean like that. You wanted to ask the proper question.
The question was, and I know exactly what the question was, who trains the hardest, Leroy? Go on, you say it, Leroy. You say it. Because you've been around the Yanks at goals and stuff. I mean, I don't know what it's like now, but
yeah,
hey, we're not disrespecting anybody. I've trained some.
It's a good question. I mean, honestly, the short answer, and I don't know how much of it's perception, because again, I still think, I mean, to this day, I've said it a billion times, it's not going to fangirl. If there's only someone, like one person in the bodybuilding world that I was like, kind of like the methodology and everything about it, I was like, man, that's it. It's Dorian. And I think that Dorian, I mean, I shouldn't say I think, I mean, Dorian, just from my perception, he put UK, bodybuilding on the map, and everything just perpetuated off of that. Because it's like the same as anything. Like if you live anywhere where there's some epic sports figure coming after it, like every generation after that, you're influenced by that. So it's like how many bodybuilders were influenced by Dorian, and you can't say that the next 30 years after that haven't been influenced directly by him. So I think it's just the sheer result of it. UK bodybuilding seems much more hardcore, and I feel like more people have their heads on straight over there overall. But then like the US is so weird, and there's so many like pockets of it. Then I could provide a bunch of examples of I think people that get it over here as well too. But it's just like the US culture is, I can make an argument just like garbage for a lot of things. So it's like as a whole, I definitely feel like it's definitely a big difference. I feel like it does seem like it's more hardcore and more focused on probably a lot of the right stuff over there as opposed to here. And so yeah, I don't feel bad saying that, because at the same time too, it's like people that know that they're doing their shit right over here, they're not the ones that are going to be insecure about me saying that. Like, oh my God, he's making fun of it. It's like they know, it's like, oh, he's not talking about me. I know how to do stuff that I'm supposed to do, right? But as a whole, I feel like we have more of that kind of culture over here with the I don't know, everything.
I think I can hear Branch Warren swimming here.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, right. Joe, we'll put the thumbnail as Joe Bennett says US guys train like pussies, and we'll use that.
Yeah. I mean, I literally don't think you could even offend anybody with that, because it's like the whole like the nature of
you
like
would offend somebody, Joe, because like the verses offend somebody. Like he sent me a message like, oh God, it's just
exactly. Well, that's the whole thing. It's like it wouldn't matter what the thumb is. Like the people that are easily offended are going to be offended. The people that are actually confident doing what they're doing, they'll be like, oh yeah, everyone over here does train like shit except for me. They're going to have that in their brain, and then you're going to have some people think that too, that just have like that Dunning-Kruger effect. So you're going to have some 20-year-old that trains like legit shit, not hard at all. And he's like, yeah, he's not talking about me though. I'm training hard. He hasn't seen my stuff.
Killing it, man. I'm killing it. Oh God. Yeah. Sorry if we offended anybody there.
So on the end of that, I always remember a conversation we had with a few of the lads, a few of the pros in just after an Olympia. And they were all going to go off doing the what they call it,
the Grand Prix.
The Grand Prix. Yeah, they were all going to go off and do the Grand Prix and the photo shoots and the seminars. And I remember they turned and said to Doz, "You coming?" And Doz looked and went, I mean, he just won the Olympia. He just went, nah. So what are you doing then? So, go back home. Go back home. What are you doing? Go back to work. Go back to train. Go back to train. So yeah, getting ready for next year. And you want to see their faces. They couldn't fucking believe that we were going back to work the day after, while they were going off, sort of, well, having a bit of a party and relaxing and whatever. And they did used to relax for a good few months after the Olympia. But after that conversation, and when Blood and Guts come out, a lot of them changed their attitude and the way of training. And you're seeing that with the likes of Lavone and Sam Nasser, Flex. They all Ronnie, Chris Coleman. They all changed their way of training. So it sort of made the battles harder.
Yeah, but of influence not having 3 months off after the Olympia.
Yeah.
Those probably would have been better. Maybe he's having a couple of weeks off, wouldn't he? Maybe he's not. And then again, you shouldn't miss him maybe, because if he didn't have that kind of crazy mindset, then he wouldn't have got where he got, did he? So yeah,
that's why it's called the Shadow. He fitted him. He came out, done his stuff, upset a lot of people, and then went back into the shadows.
Back to work.
Well, if there's something to finish on, there's that. Joe, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed the verses, the head-to-head.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
We arm wrestled before it all started.
Come on, Joe. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
Joe, it's been a pleasure.
You as well, Leroy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for your
nice
time,
to meet
Joe.
you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope you're feeling back to 100% soon, Joe.
Oh yeah. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm starting to train next week, so I'm looking forward to that. So
yeah, we'll look out for the slow dehanger pull downs.
yeah, exactly. I'm going to be doing that for a little while. I'm going to do something too hard. I'm going to like debilitate myself for a week. Like, oh man. But yeah, really good.
Yeah, not too much fatigue, Joe. Take it easy.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Big love, man. Get well soon.
Thanks, man. Speak
All right.
soon.
Easy.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Take care,
Bye.
guys.